The governor can now cross one item off his post-budget to-do list. The Senate and the Assembly passed the ethics reform bill yesterday. That leaves a property tax cap and same-sex marriage to do. But even though it has now been 3 weeks since an agreement on the tax cap was announced, there seems to be more movement these days on legalizing gay marriage. We have seen 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans come out in favor of the bill in just 24 hours. That means just one more vote is needed to pass it. But securing that last vote might not be so easy. Here to talk more about the bill's chances and all the latest news is our insiders, veterans of state politics. With us in Albany is Dave Catalfamo, who was the communications director for Governor George Pataki. He's now a partner at Capital Public Strategies. And joining us from New York City is Richie Fife, a political consultant who managed Governor Patterson's short-lived campaign for a full term and also worked on the Obama campaign. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks.
Okay. I don't know who wants to start here. Why don't we start with you, Richie? We haven't seen you in a while, so welcome back.
Good to be here.
We are hearing that trending is potentially a third yes vote. I can't say anything for certain, but we are hearing that Mr. Grisanti, Senator Grisanti, out in Buffalo, is now back on the fence in the undecided column. I don't know what that means, but Senator McDonald, of course, and Senator Alisi, is this going to happen, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it is, and I think the governor deserves a lot of credit. I mean, Governor Cuomo is a great strategist who understands timing, who keeps people off guard a little bit, and has really moved this forward. And I think what you have is kind of the momentum to have it passed. You know, last time when it failed, and it failed convincingly, it was actually a lot closer than people thought, because senators didn't want to be the 25th or 26th vote, but were willing to be part of a larger group to have it pass. And I think in their hearts wanted it to pass. And I think Governor Cuomo has created that momentum.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Dave, that in their hearts the Senate actually wants to see this pass? I mean, here's the problem. Even if we get one more, that puts us at 32. No one wants to be that 32nd vote. You really need 33 or maybe 34 or 35, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. But and I agree with Richie with respect to, I think it was closer last time than the final vote tally actually appeared. And the governor has done a good job of bringing over some of the Democrats that had been out there, which essentially are very important, I think, in order to bring some of the Republican votes over. But two things. One is, I think as much as we have to credit the governor, Senator Skelos deserves a lot of credit, basically for allowing this vote to be one of conscience for his members. And basically he said, if we go into conference and there's votes there to bring it out, I'm going to let it out on the floor.
Well, hold on. He also said, by the way, that this was supposed to be a conscience vote back in 2009, and the entire conference voted no.
Mm-hmm. But things have changed, and clearly, spending some time in the wilderness, I think, has also changed the way the Senate Republicans have run their conference. And I think that given the nature of the vote, and candidly, given the way that the polling has trended on the vote, Senator Skelos deserves a lot of credit for allowing his members to go their own way on it. But the one thing I would point out, there's a lot of discussion around the Capitol by the marriage equality lobby that every state where they've been successful doing this, they've been successful in protecting those members. I think the big difference is there hasn't been a conservative party in those states.
Right.
That really changes the dynamics here. And I know that you talked to Chairman Long earlier, and I still think that there's a bit of runway to be played out here with respect to a final vote.
Well, that's interesting. Go ahead, Richard.
No, I think that's right, and I think, if anything, we all know in Albany to count something over before it happens is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can't do it, and there's a lot could be happening. So kind of giving out credit now before the final vote is taken is hard. But I think Dean Skelos, if this does pass, deserves some credit. I also think people like Tom Duane and Governor Patterson, who set the groundwork and fought for this a long time, should deserve a lot of credit for getting us where we are today.
Well, and Tom Duane, interestingly, he was sidelined in this one, I have to say. And even though he has been the face of this campaign for so many years, and Senate Minority Leader John Sampson went out of his way to praise Tom Duane, but it really was Tom Duane in 2009 who had the bill, and people blamed him for whatever reason, even if he was or was not culpable. I can't really say, but certainly Governor Spitzer tried, and Governor Patterson tried. I mean, this is not a new push here. The thing is, though, here's another problem, which I find kind of amazing. This is right now being stalled and held up, as far as I heard down at the Capitol, and I was down there today, by rent laws, completely unrelated. So typically Albany.
You as an Albany, as long as you've been there, you're amazed by that?
It never ceases to amaze me, this sort of the horse trading going on here. I mean, does somebody want to take a crack at that? It's really quite something.
Oh, it's welcome to negotiating with Speaker Silver.
Okay.
I mean, that is what it is. I mean, we've seen this dance with 3 other governors, so it's not a new thing. And I think that the Speaker will take out this negotiation as far and as long as he needs to in order to get the accommodations that he needs on rent control. At the end of the day, I still think that the Senate majority wins the property tax cap and the Speaker gets the rent reg changes that he needs, but he's going to push it and take it as far as he can in order to get the best deal that he can.
Yeah, typical for him. You know what's interesting though, before we leave the gay marriage issue, and I want to talk to both of you guys about this, Richard, if you'd want to weigh in. I ran into an assemblyman in the elevator today, a Republican, who said, all of you guys are focusing on the Senate, and that's great, but what about the Assembly? Because the vote is going to be a lot closer, and who knows if it even passes. If it's one of these middle-of-the-night votes and there are people who are not in their seats, it could be problematic. Do you think that's a problem?
I think everything in Albany is a problem, so and I think it's difficult. I think if it passes the Senate, I think it will pass the Assembly. But what you have is a lot of these issues, and what Governor Cuomo has done very well is he's kept getting things passed as people have looked to other issues coming down the line. And where you are now is at the wall, where there's no down the line. It's the end of session, so it makes each of them harder. Each person who's scared of not getting what they want are playing a game of chicken, and so it's tough.
Yeah, no one plays chicken better than Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, though. The man is like the king of political chicken. He's just...
The governor's pretty tough, too.
Yeah, true. They're both very good. It's just the rent laws, if the Senate Democrats are saying, well, we don't want to vote on gay marriage, and the Assembly Democrats, too, until the rent laws get strengthened and lengthened, and the Senate Republicans say, well, we don't want the rent laws to be strengthened and lengthened, but we want the tax cap, it's like somebody's got to blink, so who blinks first?
Well, it's even more complicated than that, because there are people who are trying to kill the property tax who are using it. So it's very three-dimensional chess going on here.
It is.
And it becomes, and it's very scary for all that. So, one of the real problems with the rent issue is, unlike the same-sex marriage or the property tax cap, that's something new which will happen and change what's going on now. The rent laws, they expire on Thursday, so if they don't do something about it, you take away something that people already have. So it's a much more kind of anxiety-related issue than the others are right now. Yeah,
but we should say that if they expire for a couple of days, it's not like people are going to be automatically kicked out of their apartments. Right. I mean, back in 1997, there was a few days, and they just retroactively passed some legislation, and it was all worked out fine in the end.
Right.
No, that's right. But if it's a few days and the legislature goes out of session, it's scary, and it's scary for the people who live in these apartments.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the reality is that there's time left on the clock here, and I think that the players are going to take it out to the end of session and get the best results that they can, and that there's still time to strike deals in all these areas or enact the deals that have already been made.
Well, what we're hearing is that the Senate Republicans would love to get out of here on Friday and not come back for Monday's session, which is the last scheduled day, whereas the Assembly Democrats are okay, we could come back, that's fine. Also, let's remember, a very late night on Friday is problematic because Shabbos, the Jewish Sabbath, is on Friday, and the Speaker is an Orthodox Jew who observes.
Right.
I just want to touch on, before we run out of time, Anthony Weiner really can't get away from it, so sorry. Until it's over, it's just not over. Today, Richard, the House Democrats reiterated their call for him to resign, but they didn't strip him of his committee assignment. I thought that was curious. Why do you think that was?
Well, I think this is a difficult issue here, and frankly, from my side, I can't really understand why Congress is so much more up in arms about a virtual affair than they get about real affairs. So I think they're real issues. I think Congressman Weiner deserves time to talk to his wife. He's seeking treatment, which is good, and I think to rush it is the wrong thing. And it's important to act, I think, at sometimes a little bit more human, a little less political. So I think in that way of taking their time is a good thing.
Well, except for with that, Congressman Wiener is detracting from the Democrats' message on a national level, and the longer this goes on, the longer he's going to take away from that. But to me, the thing that is most curious, Liz, is where is Senator Schumer? Typically, he'd be jumping in front of this camera right here to be able to talk. And where is Senator Gillibrand? I mean, the fact of the matter is that these people are very outspoken and are never shy about being in front of the camera, and they've been nowhere on this issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Senator Schumer, go ahead, Richard. I mean, Senator Schumer is Anthony Weiner's former boss. He says that he's heartbroken. You're right, he is not joining the call for resignation. Senator Gillibrand, I mean, she's a former colleague of Anthony Weiner's, and also she's quite close to Senator Schumer. She's his protege, one might argue. So that makes sense there. Richard, you were going to say?
No, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There are Democrats around the nation, and the president himself saying that the congressman should think about resigning.
Oh, the president didn't say that. What the president said was, if I were Anthony Weiner, I would resign. Not quite the same thing. Just saying.
I think this distraction issue is also a little bit of a straw dog. A distraction is only a distraction if you let it be a distraction. You put a great foul shooter at the line.
The sound of one hand clapping, Richard. A Zen cone by Richard Fife. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
But what it is a distraction is it's a distraction from the distractions. It's not like if you got rid of Anthony Weiner, the Congress would be in there talking about how to deal with the debt ceiling and how to deal with the budget.
True. Or
the newspapers, all of a sudden, the New York Post would have the welfare debate, the Medicare debate on the front page. It's a distraction because people want to say it's a distraction, and it makes people uncomfortable and politically uncomfortable, and that's what they're reacting to, I think, more than anything.
Because it is uncomfortable. This thing has gotten creepier and creepier and weirder and weirder every day. And, I mean, so it's not like we're not like people are like making up this distraction. I mean, the more revelations, the more weird and creepy it is. And, it just needs to stop.
I agree with that.
Okay, well, all right.
I agree totally with that.
Stop. All right, we all agree that this is weird and creepy. Just how it's going to resolve itself is not quite clear. We're not quite certain that we agree on that either, but I'm sure that we will be talking about it again. Richie Fife, it's great to see you from New York City. Welcome back. And Dave Catalfamo from Albany, thanks a lot for being here.